Hey guys, here's my verdict on my new, to me, 2018 Suzuki DR650. I bought it earlier this summer and have since put about 7,000 kilometers on it. The DR650 has a timeless design. It's simple, utilitarian, and looks rugged, especially with knobby tires. In my book, it's probably one of the best looking dual sport on the market, but I know many will disagree. Maybe I'm just getting old and nostalgic of the 80s. The DR is powered by a 644cc air-cooled single-cylinder engine producing 43 horsepower and 47 foot-pounds of torque, most of which is accessible in the lower rev range. Those numbers might seem pathetic by modern standards, but keep in mind the DR only weighs 366 pounds. By comparison, the brand new KLR 650 produces slightly less power but weighs nearly 100 pounds more for the base model. Having owned a KLR 650 in the past, I can say the grin factor doesn't even compare. The DR feels livelier, it even sounds better, it's more playful, it's just more fun. The DR's engine is more comfortable on B roads, but it will handle 120 kilometers an hour all day long, though as with most single cylinders, on the highway you can expect some vibration and you will find yourself looking for the sixth gear every once in a while unless you change your sprockets. If you've watched my previous video on the Africa Twin, you know I'm not a fan of frequent valve check schedules, and on the DR, Suzuki recommends checking them every 12,000 kilometers. The big difference is I would never entertain the idea of doing the valves myself on the Africa, while on the DR I actually did the valves myself and it took just over an hour, and next time will probably take me under 45 minutes. Everything on the DR is as basic as it gets, and unless your engine explodes, most owners with basic mechanical skills will be able to fix whatever could go wrong. There's 2 bolts to remove the seat, 1 bolt for each side panel, 2 bolts to remove the tank, 3 screws for the headlight cover, 5 screws to remove the air filter. It really doesn't get any easier. Aside from the usual, the occasional carb adjustment is all you'll have to look after. Speaking of which, I know many love tinkering on their carburetor, but personally, if I could choose, even if the carb works fine, I'd rather have fuel injection and never think about it again. Because of its simplicity, the DR is also extremely reliable. A lot of owners modify the airbox, jetting, and exhaust, and with that you can achieve amazing results or make it run like crap. Often problems come from owners doing things they shouldn't have done to the bike to start with. As the old saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I've seen multiple owners report over 100,000 kilometers on these engines, and keep in mind these are dual sport bikes, they are not touring bikes. Here is the complete list of features on the DR. Comfort is very subjective, but most owners will tell you that the stock seat has more things in common with a 2x4 than it does with a motorcycle seat. Being 6'1", I upgraded my seat to the Seat Concepts Tall Comfort Seat, which is 1.75 inches taller than stock, which is already pretty high at 34.8 inches. I also lowered the pegs by 1.5 inches, and with that setup, I can ride 600 kilometers in a day, no problem. In its stock form, after 300 kilometers, I'd be ready to call it a day. After addressing the seat and foot pegs, I upgraded my tank to the 6.6 gallon Acerbis tank. I can now go nearly 450 kilometers before hitting reserve instead of the 180-ish kilometers on the stock tank. For the shorter riders, know that you can lower the bike by 1.5 inches with basic tools. You'll just need a shorter side stand. If you started shopping for a DR and start watching reviews, you'll realize soon enough that the #1 complaint owners have is the suspensions being too soft. Well, as much as I hated the suspensions on my Triumph Scrambler 1200 XE for being too harsh, I love the stock suspensions on the DR as I can ride over anything and it never ever feels harsh. I compensate the nosedive by using the rear brake, and at 180 pounds it rarely bottoms out, even off-road. You just need to ride accordingly. It's not a sport bike. It's tall, soft, and even the frame has some flex to it. It's part of what makes it an all-day comfortable bike. If you're over 200 pounds or plan on mostly doing hardcore off-roading and big jumps, then yes, you'll want stiffer springs or maybe look into the DRZ. but otherwise, I would really give the stock suspensions a try before throwing money at them. Just max the preload on the rear shock. Many owners are happy to have upgraded to stiffer springs, but generally they also comment about how they compromised on comfort, so something to think about. Same with the brakes, nothing spectacular, but pull harder on the lever and it will stop. There's no ABS, so this can be a pro or con depending on your experience and the type of riding you do. Personally, I think the brakes are just fine. Oh, and if you're looking for a 2-up touring machine, I could think of probably 50 bikes that would be better at that. But like with most bikes, you can make it pretty good with just a few changes. But still, it's mostly a solo bike, and if you ride 2-up and are my size, you'll be happy if you go 250 kilometers before it becomes uncomfortable. Sure, you can find lighter, faster bikes with all the latest electronic aids, but with proper tires, the DR will take you anywhere. It will eat gravel roads and single tracks all day long. With basic tools and extra tubes, not much could happen that will leave you stranded, even in the middle of nowhere. The DR650 has been in production for over 25 years and has remained mostly unchanged for over a decade. So if you buy it new, it might not be the best deal out there considering how basic it is, but you can find plenty on the used market that have been modified to no end, including some having a 790 big bore kit. You can also usually find very recent and low mileage ones, so it might not be worth buying new. Value on the used market has gone up in the last 3 years, but there's still some great deals out there. As you would expect from Suzuki, it will never be the top of the line, but looking at my DR after 19,000 kilometers of road and off-road use, it has held up really well. And let's face it, these bikes get a lot more abuse than the typical street bike. There's absolutely nothing fancy or techy about this bike, just look at the speedometer. Need I say more? Is the DR650 still relevant? Is it worth it? Is it fun? The answer is yes, yes, and yes. I've owned 23 or 24 bikes and have ridden over 150 different bikes, over 350,000 kilometers, from 2-stroke dirt bikes to modern leader sport bikes, and there's few bikes on which I've had more fun than on the DR. You won't power wheelie in 4th gear, but discover a new country road or a technical trail and you'll be smiling for hours. The venerable bush pig has a huge following and its reputation says it all. Don't be fooled by the specs. Give the DR a try, it's way better than the sum of its parts. It's an extremely capable and versatile machine, but most importantly, it's fun. It's a lot more gratifying to ride a slow bike fast than it is a fast bike slow. Let me know in the comments what you think of the DR650. Thanks for watching, see you next time.